Egil here. Hope you're all keeping safe. Nice sunny weather, which is good news for us. If you've got any questions, please let us know, and we'll try and answer. I'll try and answer them for you. And I hope you're keeping safe. After all, we're in this all together, and I can't emphasise enough. I'm doing my second jab next month, and if you're going to have a jab, please make sure you do it for everyone's sake. So, any questions?
Not yet.
Okay, so I'll ramble on a bit more. I hope you're all having a good time, and thank you from to all of you who've sent in messages asking after me. I am very glad you've done that. I've been sort of held up in my flat, and you know, taking care not to make sure that I basically stick to the rules. If you stick to the rules, you should be okay. And as I say, vaccines are coming online, and it's not just elderly people, it's everyone is concerned, and we all need to understand that. Enough preaching from me. We'll see if there's anything anybody wants to ask me. I'll try and answer them as best I can.
Now, we've not long published a video about did King Harold die at Hastings? So why don't you just talk about that for a few minutes whilst we wait for people to turn up? And you've got one person watching so far.
Well, as Bragi said, we've just done about King Harold at the Battle of Hastings. One or two interesting things from there. I mean, we all know Harold's supposed to get an arrow in his eye. But if you look at the Bay of Tapestry next to that, you could see the same figure being hacked down from horseback. And we thought, well, you know, it's just someone else. However, we know that Harold's paramour, is the best way of putting it, recognised him by a tattoo which said Eleanor on him. The bodies were left to rot, which, you know, it's not nice. Warfare isn't. But apparently they built an abbey there called Battle Abbey. Underneath that is the skeleton of quite a tall chap, which we think is Harold. Whether it is or not, we don't know. We can't prove it one way or the other. I like to think it is. But as I say, it must have been horrendous there with the rotting carcasses around there. And people think, oh, William is a horrible man, blah, blah. Well, he responded to the situation the only way he could. The so-called people of England at the time, the Saxons, were not cooperating, and things like you build a wall, they have a leather bag full of water which they slip into the building work. That perishes, and the whole wall falls down. Lords would change their allegiance like you and I would change our socks, and you couldn't trust them. So he had to be harsh and brutal, had to keep control. I can see where he's coming from. From where we are today, looking back, you think, oh, it's violent. Well, yeah, of course it's violent, but these are violent times. So I wouldn't be too willing to condemn William. He responded in the only way he could. So, how are we doing there, Bragi?
Yes, we've got a comment from Treve Tales.
Hi.
And Treve says, the eminent Egil, and is that the boisterous Bragi's voice in the background? Yes, it is.
It certainly is. Well, I hope you're keeping safe. Do we know where he's from?
Yes, he's from Australia, and it's currently 2:45 in the morning.
Wow.
Yes.
Sorry to keep you awake there, mate. But, yeah, well, thanks for hearing from you. Remember, it's just the same for you as it is for us. Please keep safe. We don't want to lose anybody. We've already lost one guy who used to be on here, and we don't want to lose any more. So please remember, stay safe, and all the best to you, mate, in Australia.
Oh yeah. Just talk about that recently. We bought that for £36, and Treve is quite intrigued by it, and he's never really seen it close up. And that is a Celtic cavalry or infantry helmet, Egil.
All right, so this is Roman.
Pre-Roman.
I was going to say, This is.
It's got Roman
Gaelic.
design.
I would say it's more Gaelic.
Definitely, it's Celtic.
But either way, it's an early form of helmet which bears some resemblance to the later Roman helmet. Hang on, let me get it the right way around first off. That way. Again, it's very well thought out. Hang on, I'll just get an axe. If you think a blow to the head here slides off, not only that, it actually, as you hit it, scoops away. Earpieces, well, they're like a double-edged. Yes, it protects the old ears, but that means you can't hear as well. This particular one's got a hole in the top, whether that's for a plume, I don't know. This particular model doesn't have a headpiece inside. Bragi, does this mean that you piled your hair up, or did you actually have a liner?
I think they would have a liner, depending on your hairstyle, maybe felt.
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine, I mean, my hair is nowhere near the length of some of the guys out there in the time. That you pile it up, a bit like Mary Wilson, and put a bit of cloth in there. So anyway, it's an interesting helmet. You can see how the gladiators copied it as well. It's a forerunner. It's an interesting thing. So anyway, that's the beginning of the helmets. Anybody else?
Now we've got a comment here from Treve, and he says, we have a great team looking after us doing contact tracing, so we don't have any community cases in Queensland, which is excellent.
Yeah. A friend of mine actually was in Australia looking after the koalas.
It's your payment for the day, that is, Egil.
Oh, I nearly dropped it. Thank you. I've just been handed a nice cider rosé. Very posh. But no, I had a friend who was looking after the koalas shortly before the big fire out there. But anyway, cheers, mate.
And we have a comment here from Draglar, and he says, long time no see. Well, it has been a while since old COVID.
I think one thing I have learned from COVID, life's too short to hold grudges. I've lost 2 people, not to COVID ironically, but to cancer. One is my brother-in-law, the other was a good friend. And it's made me understand that life's too short to hold a grudge. There are people who I've had disagreements with, who've had disagreements with me, but I don't wish them any harm. And, you know, be friendly, be nice to people. It's not that big a deal, you know. You're a long time dead, so, you know, you have to show a bit of forbearance. And, yeah. Anyway, I hope you're all keeping safe. I have a lot. I look on you all as friends across the globe, as I know Bragi does. We value your contributions. We value your lives. And this is why I keep banging on about be safe, wear face masks. You know, we don't want to lose any more of you. It's a very emotional time, very strange. I mean, I've been locked up in my flat for a long time, it seems. But and who knows, we may even have another bout in winter time. If we do, please stick to the rules and just go for it. I don't want to hear any more deaths.
So Treve Tail says, cheers. And then he says in a comment, he says, do you know that koalas are not actually bears?
I didn't really.
Well, aren't considered to be bears.
I didn't really, but I know my mate Rob thinks they're dead cute. To me, they're animals. And they're rare, or getting rare. But yeah, I mean, they are very cute looking animals. But we need to protect the environment, not just koalas, but because they're cute, but all kinds of creatures. Strike a balance. Obviously, you know, you have to have places to live and crops to live on, but so do the animals. And I think if we balance it up, you know, we won't miss another million in the bank, but we will miss koalas. But
and Treve in another comment, he says they don't have the koalifications. Now, does anybody have any questions to ask Egil before he drinks his cider too quickly?
I'm all right, maybe.
Yes, we could do a live stream. How many ciders does it take to get Egil drunk?
Not many.
No.
I could drink brandy, but beer and cider didn't take much.
Talk about the origin of chainmail, 5th century BC,
Well,
Celtic.
To call it chainmail for a start is wrong.
Yes,
Should be mail.
mail.
It's made up of rings. The earliest I know of mail is Celtic, but I think it even goes further back than that. They're made of rings, rather like knitting. In actual fact, Tyrkir is very good at making it. I'm not. I can't count past 5. But that becomes more and more complex. If you imagine each ring is riveted, that must send your eyesight into a nosedive. If you go to Islam, every other link has got Allah is great stamped on it. The armour there must have ended up as blind as Stevie Wonder, but it's a considerable art to make it. A friend of mine in York used to do it, and he said after about 24 links he had to stop because his eyesight was going. So here's to all you mail makers.
Generally, they're 50% split links and 50% solid. But if you think about it, if you got to rivet a whole 100% of a suit riveted, so a lot of the work. If you use a solid link in between the riveted links, it saves you 50%.
I've seen in Bragi where people have done all riveted. I agree with you. Yeah.
Now, we have a comment here, and this is from Mystic Forge, who's a new viewer on the channel. And they say, how long have you been reenacting?
Reenacting? Well, I was at university till 1990. And that's after university. I got bored. There was nothing else to do. I lived in York at the time. And I'd heard about these guys reenacting Vikings at the for Jorvik. I went down and I met some very decent people. And it was more craft-based rather than battle-based. Due to financial reasons, I had to move back to Derby, and I was introduced to Derby Group and joined up there, where ironically Tyrkir was the gang boss, and we formed a friendship. I formed a friendship with quite a few people. That's how I met Bragi, and had some good times. Had some times we'd rather not talk about, and eventually it became too political for me, and I just drew a line under it, and I think Bragi was the same. I can't really talk about anybody else, but when you start believing your characters in real life, you've got problems. I mean, I was a mercenary slaver as a character. I was actually on the dole, so let's get things straight. I had some good times. I met a very nice lady there who was my girlfriend for many years. Nice one, Helen. She taught me a lot about life and about how to improve my life, which I am eternally grateful to her for. Didn't work out, but that's life. But yeah, all in all, I think it was quite fun. It was a good trip.
What's your best reenactment memory?
I've enjoyed most of it. It's just something that I was living at home with my mother. It was a way I did like my mother, don't get me wrong, but it was a break in that. It gave me a weekend where I could whoever I wanted to be, and it was with people of like-mindedness. And I travelled the country. I love travelling, believe it or not. One day we'd be in Colchester, next day we'd be in Liverpool, and things like that. And I just thoroughly enjoyed it, meeting people from across the country who thought like I did. And let's face it, getting blasted at night and having a good time. It's great. The only trouble is, of course, people take themselves as the character as being serious. Don't, just enjoy it. You know, if you start taking yourself seriously, there's something wrong in your life. So anyway, you might say, well, why are you doing this? Because I'm a retired bloke and I enjoy doing it. And it's a way of connecting with your mates.
If you could pick another era to reenact, what would it be?
First World War. There's a lot of detail in there, it's just dressing up. It's a bit like cowboys and Indians. You know, you just have a bit of fun. That's what it's about. You learn about your period to get your costume correct. I mean, I studied the First World War. One of my hobbies is I collect medals of all nations. I'm not that particular about whom I get them from. But each medal tells a story, and that's what you're trying to do, is to capture that story of Mr. Joe Public. You know, it's easy with the English medals because they have the name, rank and serial number, which you can check. Unfortunately, French, Belgian, German and American don't do that. So they're, yes, medals, but you don't have the story behind them unless you know the person concerned who won them. But, you know, that's what I do. It's great fun. But I don't let it dominate my life as some people do. You know, I'm more interested in the people around me. And hopefully, you know, we get along.
So Mystic Forge says in a comment, just give me a second. Out of all the people you've met in your time in the community reenacting, who has made the biggest impression on you?
If I'm being honest, when I was in York, my mate Peter, he ran the Jorvik people. He was an ex-guardsman, and with him being an ex-guardsman, Pete Gardner would have standards. What I liked about him was you'd do something, it was more craft-based, and instead of saying, oh, that's what we say, oh, that's all right, but let's see if we can do better. And we made our own helmets, we made also, I got into bone carving. He was an amazing guy to talk to. Terrified the you-know-what out of me driving, because he's ex-SAS as well, and he did defensive driving. Can you imagine going around York at literally 70 miles an hour? I mean, I'm not a nervous passenger, but I had to change my pants when I got in. And he just, vroom. But he's an amazing guy. And if you're out there, Pete, here's to you, mate.
I think he wrote a paper about riveting, didn't he, did Pete Gardner?
Yeah, he
very good.
Got very disillusioned because he was let down. Now, you know the sports shop by the Roman Baths pub?
Vaguely.
Well, he works in there. He was manager there, but he doesn't have anything whatsoever to do with reenactment or Vikings. But what a guy. He was amazing. Frightened the life out of me. I remember my first ever reenactment with him was, it was at the big hall there, and I hit him with an axe accidentally and cut him above the eye. I felt really bad about it, but he took it in good stead. But my favourite place, I think, is York. I love it. I have such lovely memories there. I have some sad memories. I know what poverty is because I lived in York, but I also know what true friendship is because I lived in York. I go back periodically. Obviously, at the moment, it's pretty desolate because of the COVID. I was there with my pal about 2, maybe 3 months back, and it was it's like taking the backbone out of something. It was just not right. But it'll get better. We look for better times. As I say, York is something that combines, not only do I do reenactment, and I don't do reenactment, but you know, the channel and Vikings. I love history in general. I liken history to a box of sweets, you know, like Quality Street or whatever. you've got your favourite, which is the toffee walnut one. And you've got the ones you're not that keen on, but you'll eat them anyway. You know, the fudge ones at the bottom. Doesn't matter. And it's the same with history. You have your favourite periods. You have those that you know, but it's all valid. It's all there. As I say, I mean, I loved my time in York. Another character I knew, and he's dead now, bless him. He died a long time ago. Was my old mate Perry Prynne. Lived in Canterbury. It was him who at the time I was with the Tolkien Society, which is a literary society. And Perry came with a load of Vikings, beat 7 bells out of each other, which sort of got me interested. I stayed with him, and he was an amazing guy. If you know of Ormskirk, he was descended from Orm the Great, and he could recite his history all the way back to Orm the Great, which apparently the children of Perry had to do. He had an interesting life. He was not just this guy who made reenactment stuff and clothing. He'd been in the Mau Mau uprising, had a price on his head of 150 shillings. Jomo Kenyatta was very keen on finding him. He was out of the country, he was in the Korean War. He made the national headlines because he used to go around flip-flops, bell-bottom jeans, and that was it. And 5 guys decided they'd have a go at him. What they didn't realise, he was about third dan karate and dispatched them. Well, he stopped them from hurting him. And I can remember seeing it on the news at the time as a sort of afterthought. And he actually befriended one of the guys and got him through to being a black belt himself. He's one of the colourful characters who this world is a better place because of him. God love an eccentric, you know. It makes the world a better place, you know, and because they're different, it makes things sweeter. So anyway, Bragi's away somewhere at the moment, so there might be a brief space before we get to the next question, and I'll have a shot of this. Oh, I hear the fairy footsteps of him now, and I see a shadow. Is it him? Yes, it is. Okay, next question, please.
Right, I'll let the carer out.
Oh, you sound like you've got her in a cage.
So, Tree Tale says, we are reenacting the Dumnonai, I hope I pronounced that right, people of Devon and Cornwall in the post-Roman era. Have you heard of them having light cavalry? The horses were quite small and they would throw javelins at their enemies.
Yeah, I've heard of them, but yeah, around Devon, that's my ancestral home. My mother's maiden name was Branscombe, which means Raven Valley. We date back to the Saxon time. In fact, there is a village called Branscombe. Yeah, it's amazing when you think. One of my ancestors is actually buried at the altar of Exeter Cathedral. But enough bragging about me. Yeah, I mean, Cornwall, Devon around that time was sort of separate kingdoms, hence you have Cornish language and things like that. But must be fun doing what you're doing, and this is the point. Reenactors, it's for fun. If you like the historical side, great. But getting all hoity-toity about it, all you do is alienate people. Just get out there, enjoy yourself, and live your life and have fun.
That's a book I recommend on Cornish folk tales for Treve. Very good, that one.
Witchery of the West. I can't really read it because I ain't got my specs on.
I'll show it to camera in a minute.
Yeah, sure.
Excellent book that is. If you want to read folk tales about Cornwall, Witchery of the West by Georgina Penny.
Right. It's a good bit of cider, this, actually.
Well, let's talk about cider then. What kind of drink would the Vikings and Saxons have had apart from mead? Everybody thinks Vikings drank mead all the time.
Well, it depends. Cider is one thing. You go out and you collect the apples, crush them, bit of water or whatever, and it's natural yeast from the air, from what it generates. Another thing that people don't really think about is perry. That's a similar thing made with pears. And for those of us who know, there's baby sham, which is actually perry. And it was for special occasions. There's beer, of course, good old beer. Why do they go for these drinks? Well, the water wasn't safe. Milk had to be made into cheese because the bacteria are in there. The beer was not ever so strong. Obviously, you can't go around in alcoholic haze all the time, however attractive they may be to you. But you'd supplement things, well, as I say, with cider, with perry. Perry is a bit like champagne. It's a jolly nice drink, actually. Jolly nice drink. But
wine.
Wine as well. Wine is for the wealthy. It is said that in the Viking age that an amphora of wine was equal to one slave. So you can imagine there's one or two discontented slaves going over to the continent and wine coming back. One of the things we did find was Tintagel in Cornwall, supposedly the place of Arthur, which is not. They found shards and shards of broken amphora, i.e. wine. Well, it was King John, his brother, was fabulously wealthy and built this, how can you call it, I suppose a pleasure palace, pretending it's Arthur's palace, and they'd have banquets.
By the sea.
By the sea. And we found there's trade going on there for quite a time. But you can imagine King John's brother getting sloshed over there on a Friday night with his pals. Why not?
So I've got a couple of comments here for you. So Milkman, he says, how you doing, brother Egil?
I'm fine, thanks, bro. Hope you're okay too.
And Treve says, turns out we are kin, Egil.
Jolly good.
And the Milkman says, apple cherry.
Oh, nice.
And Treve says in a comment, ginger beer.
Oh, ginger beer. Reminds me so much of my mother. It was her favourite drink. And she got ginger beer plants. And we end up with loads of plants because you put sugar in it and also. But I do love a good ginger beer. I haven't had one in a while. Because it always reminds me of my late mother. She loved ginger beer. We used to have what we call the pot man come round, and she'd buy something like 6 bottles of ginger beer. Well, you can only drink so much. We'd end up with loads and loads of bottles of this stuff. But it does remind me of my dear departed mother. So, cheers, bro.
Well, we know they had ginger because they make Viking gingerbread. That's very nice. Now, I've got a comment here and a question.
Right.
And this comes from Mystic Forge. And they say, what is your favourite story from the Sagas? And would you fancy telling it on camera?
Well, Egil's Saga, obviously, as I got my name from Egil Skallagrim. So there are a number of stories, obviously, that makes up Egil's Saga. What I like about them is the humanity that comes through. Yes, you've got all these heroes, swords and all that. But it's when you get to poor old Egil's old age where he goes blind. And you can almost, when you read it, he wants to die but can't. And then later on, it seems they found his skull. And treating it with respect, I don't think. They hit it with an axe and it just went white. And we know from that it was the thing called Paget's disease, where the bone thickens. And it must have been terrible for a man who was so physically involved in society to suddenly have this heavy weight, because your head gets heavier, and apparently he used to move his head around and couldn't see. And for a man who's used to having his own sort of fierce independence, having literally to be fed by hand because he couldn't do it himself. It's terrible. But he was 90 years old apparently when he died. Not bad innings.
It's a good innings.
Oh, just for today.
Very good. I've got a comment here from Milkman, a question.
Go on.
And they says, what was the dancing like?
We don't know is the short answer. I mean, the nearest parallel we can find, if you see traditional Scottish dancing, where they're dancing across swords, there is, I don't know how true it is, if you can imagine swords buried, hilt down with the point upwards, and apparently they used to dance around that. Whether that's true or not, I have no idea. Maybe somebody out there can tell us. There would have been some form of dancing, I'm sure. But in all honesty, I don't know.
Yeah, these are the things that don't get recorded in history, sadly.
Well, only obscured, and then of course people interpret them and they come out differently.
Can you describe what you're wearing? I'm new to being a Viking.
All right. Well, let's start from the feet upwards, shall we? I'll take one off to show you. Here we go. I'll just undo my toggles. Right. This is called a turn shoe. As you can see, this has a hard sole on it because of today's environment. Well, holding my socks, so don't look at that. Because you're walking on a hard surface. You can, if you go online, find people who do this. I got this from a pal of mine, John Watkins. Does pretty good work. And you probably pick them up for that, was it 50 quid?
Yeah, it's still going this time, Warrior.
Yeah, it's Time Warrior.
Some of it's a bit tatty though.
Well, that's not for me to say. The trousers. Again, this is a sign of wealth. You can buy material off the market. There are reenactors markets. Your colour, check with the leader of your group to see what colours you can have. And it's a bit like a pyjama. You've got a seam with a cord that you tie up and keeps your breeches on. This is called a shirt or skerta. This has got the short sleeve. You can have them long sleeve. Again, the colour is important, as your group leader will tell you. It's got some braiding. You can get that as well from reenactors markets. Beads. Don't go over the top. I've gone a bit OTT with mine. But each bead is like a rich man's wage for a week. One of the problems you find with reenactors, and yeah, I'm as guilty as anyone else, is you go over the top. You come out, you know, you've got beads, bangles,
Two swords, three axes.
And as a result, it's unrealistic. Not even the kings would have that kind of stuff. But no doubt your group leader will inform you. I've got long hair. Some people haven't got any hair at all. It doesn't matter. That's a matter of choice. The moustache.
Not if you're bold.
Well, if you're bold, you're bold. You can't help it. And this is called a Frisian cap. Very useful. Keeps your head warm.
That's the Burka style hat.
It's a Burka style. I've had a bottle of cider, so I don't really care. But anyway, the main point is with reenactment, enjoy it. Don't get hooked up on my sword's bigger than yours. So, and be honest, men can act like spoiled little brats, and they reckon, you know, to give out this, you've got to do this. You ain't got to do anything, mate. Right? It's just the rules of that society. If you don't want to know, get out. I mean, that's what we did, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
We're fed up with these little Caesars coming around, giving it this, that, and the other. And they wouldn't mind, but I've got a degree in archaeology. I've dug at York. I knew what I'm talking about.
Sutton Hoo.
And Sutton Hoo. And they come out with this verbal nonsense. And how do you know? I said, I've got a degree in it. What do you got? Ladybird Book of Vikings? Sorry, I'm getting bigger.
So we have a question here from Mystic Forge.
Hi, Mystic.
And they say, what is your absolute favourite piece of kit?
Well, I like my sword, obviously. I'm not avoiding the question. What it is, your kit has to be comfortable. If you can walk up and down a road and feel good, that's it. It's not a matter about being flash, it's a matter about being comfortable. I've walked along before now through York and my belt fell off or your leg binding gets undone. The point is you've got to feel comfortable and moving about. But my favourite bit, as I suppose, is my sword. I'm not wearing it because I'm talking to you. But if your favourite bit of kit is a weapon, learn to use it safely. It may be a reenactor's weapon, but it can still hurt and maybe even kill you. So please, be careful, listen to safety, learn how to use it properly. I've been doing this over 20 years, as has Bragi, and we know what they can do. I've had lumps on my wrist the size of a cabra's egg because somebody wasn't paying attention. One thing I would say, if you're into this or just starting, it's like playing cricket. If you're frightened of being hit by the ball, don't play cricket, because with the best will in the world, accidents happen. But you could try and cut them out as best as you can. Next question.
I think my favourite bit of kit would be the Coppergate, and I think my most favourite practical bit of kit would be a good pair of shoes.
Good pair of shoes. As for this, well,
there you go.
There.
It's
You'll have a
wonderful.
few quid in the bank to get it. Just
Well,
play it
just a
safe.
few.
You know.
So let's go. I can't see the comments; they're not appearing up, but I have to click on this thing.
I'll take my other shoe off because I feel lopsided.
So Tree Tales says there is a very early Anglo-Saxon reference to the Dumnonai from the 6th century. They're referred. Give me a second. I'll bring the chat back up. They're referred to as the Dumnonai. It's great to hear that they made dad jokes too. Any humour in the sagas?
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, every generation, doesn't matter whether you're a caveman or a nuclear scientist, has a sense of humour. Now, thing is, you may not understand it. I mean, we used to get the flash Harrys who listened to Shakespeare and go, oh yes, he's making a joke, oh, forget them. But there's humour in all sorts of things, and we may well miss it because our ideas are different. Classic cases, if you watch some of the comedy films of the 30s, it doesn't carry across. The one that does carry across to me is Laurel and Hardy.
Yeah, well, in the Laurel and Hardy movies, they often use music as that comedy way to tell a story. But in today's terms, we don't know those songs like One in the Summertime or Winter Song when they're playing it in the summertime. We don't get that joke.
But the actual physical humour, I think, lives on. As I say, Laurel and Hardy are one of my favourites. I know Bragi is far more knowledgeable about them than I am.
Well, I was a son of a desert.
Whereas I was a son of a what? Anyway.
Don't swear on camera.
I didn't.
Good.
But,
Save that for TikTok.
but I do like Laurel and Hardy. I find the Marx Brothers leave me cold. I just don't like them.
No, I never really got into the Marx Brothers.
Charlie Chaplin makes me sleepy. But,
Buster Keaton was the real one.
Oh,
Lloyd.
Buster Keaton always reminds me of Sinbad for some reason. I don't know why.
Njal.
Yeah. But anyway, having said all that, humour is it's particular to what we would find would just go over our head to a Viking or to a Bronze Age person would have them in stitches. And they probably wouldn't understand our sense of humour. But each generation has it. Even Nazi Germany, I'm sure, had their own sense of humour. Warped it, maybe.
So we have a comment here from Milkman. It says, when will you do a live rune reading live stream?
When Bragi suggests it to me.
Yeah, we'll think about that over the winter time when we've got a bit more time.
Yeah, okay.
And Egil's a bit more sorted.
I'm less pissed.
So Tree Tales says, Mr. Bean is appreciated in every corner of the world.
Well, yes, as Mr. Bean, it's a weird thing. I suppose you could compare him with Jacques Tati with his, it doesn't say much. I think he's better off being Blackadder myself. But, that's what earns him his money. Horses for courses is what it's all about. And what I find amusing, you may not, and vice versa. I think, I won't go into details.
I think if you watch Mr. Bean all the time, you get bored of it. But it doesn't really age, does it, that comedy?
Well, yeah, I suppose.
Right, next comment. A Milkman says, I do some casting myself. So he's a fellow rune caster, is Milkman.
Good on you.
Yeah, we will look into that. We've got some more runic content to film in the future, but like always, these things take a bit of time.
You do a bit of casting, let us know how you do it and you're getting on, you know. I mean, I was taught by Tony Willis, and the runic workbook was what I learnt on. I won't go into my details with Tony Willis, but I did his course as well. But yeah, I found it very useful and still do. I have a very good friend who I met through that. She's a whiz at it, I'll tell you. But anyway, you know, let us know how you get on.
Yes, we've got a comment here from Tree Tales, and Tree Tales says Blackadder is brilliant.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah, I think I've got all the whole series on.
Especially the first series, it's very raw. They get not so raw after that.
Well, I like the way the character Baldric changes from common sense to being actually a vegetable.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know.
I have a cunning plan.
Well, yeah, I mean, there is that. But the first series, I remember, they thought didn't go down well, which I disagree. I thought it was very good. And I liked it. I've still got it. As I say, I've got it on DVD.
Same here.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. We have to find some inspirational ideas from that for filming. And was there 5 series altogether?
I can't remember. I know I've got them all because there's Blackadder that goes back and forth.
Yes, that's one of my favourites.
Yeah.
And I think how they ended that was very, very good.
Yeah.
So any more questions?
No.
What are you going to have for your tea tonight when you get in?
I think it might be spam. I've got some in the fridge.
I was thinking about spam the other day. Do you fry it? Have it cold?
I usually have it in a sandwich, but I have put it in, like last night. I had some baked beans.
Yeah.
Which I put a bit of curry powder in. I had some onion that I fried up and some chips I made. Mixed them all together. And Robert's your father's brother.
Is it me or baked beans not so tasty as they used to be?
Depends what beans you get.
Because I swear to you, they're not so tomatoey as they used to be.
Well, Heinz beans, oh, am I allowed to say Heinz beans?
Yeah, you can say Heinz.
Heinz beans are pricey, but they taste all right. But I usually buy supermarket brands because they're cheaper and taste good. You know, beans on toast. You can't say fairer than that.
And Mystic Ford says, what is your favourite Viking meal?
My favourite Viking, wild boar. I love wild boar.
Venison.
At Christmas time, I try to get wild boar, but I usually have to settle for venison, which again is my second favourite, which is actually easier to get for some reason than wild boar. Go figure. But I love wild boar. It's gorgeous.
Well, just give us a boar, I eat it.
Mm.
It is very tasty.
They're running around wild in Kent, so what the problem is, I do not know. Wake up, Derby, get me some wild boar in.
And how many courses do you generally get at a banquet?
Depends on your banquet. I mean, we used to have some really good ones. Do you remember where we used to have the scout hunt?
Yeah.
And it was great. You come in. I remember I was with my girl then, and I was a door warden, and you come in, introduce people, have a drink, and you sit down, entertainment. About 3 courses. You remember Lynn used to do something.
Oh, yes.
So did Alan Borrowdale, to be fair. We had some good cooks.
Oh, yeah, we did. Now, Tree Tales says oats were the staple of the Celts.
Yeah. The oats, I know that in later years, we're talking Saxons, they found a loaf burnt in York with 27 different seeds in it. Some of which you get busted for nowadays. Now, there's this odd thing with oats and wheat. If it rots and forms this fungus, it causes massive hallucinogenic. Ergo, that's the one. Well done, Bragi. Apparently, in the 20s, I think it was, French village, this old woman decided she could fly and jumped out of a window. And what it was the ergo, which is a form of natural LSD. So, yeah.
I had a friend of mine went hunting for it in a field full of wheat.
It's when
possible.
I think it's when you have wet weather on wheat.
Yes.
it forms a mould. And that mould is the ergo. Very dodgy stuff because it, yeah.
Well, there's certainly cases in the medieval times of people going mad because of it.
This was in the 20s.
Yeah.
You
There
know,
you go.
I mean, so, you know, please be careful.
But how do they manage wheat these days and not get that in your food?
Probably because they harvest it quickly. I don't know, it's the short answer. I'm guessing.
Has it been modified?
It could well be.
So Milkman says, do you guys do pulled pork barbecue? Most whole hogs are done that way here, slow roasted in barrels, pitted underground. Oh, making me hungry.
I don't know. I don't go to many barbecues, to be honest with you. I like pulled pork, but
Oh yes,
I don't like chilies. I'm allergic to them.
Americans do good barbecues, to be fair.
Oh. Bragi's your guy. Last dog hanging I went to was, oh grief, I haven't been to one.
So Mystic 4 says, they say that is what caused these Salem witch trials.
Salem witch trials.
Salem, yes.
Well,
Depends how you pronounce it.
it's partly that, and also if we look at who benefits from this, and there was a lot of, shall we say, fitting up of people. Suddenly the accusers, their parents or whatever, ended up with property that otherwise would have gone wanting. It's a pretty nasty situation to be in anyway. Yeah. It's interesting thing is that one of the judges of the Salem witch trial is called Matthew Hopkins. Whether it's the Witchfinder General who was in East Anglia, I don't know. Yeah. So, next question, please.
I'm going to edit that video about the shed soon.
All right.
All right, sorry.
Must be getting near time.
So, Treve Tale says, were they making cheese in the Viking Age?
Cheese has gone way, way back in before the Viking times. We hear in Egil's saga about somebody eating whey, curds, and then being sick. Cheese was a way of using up milk safely. We forget today with our health and safety that it's very rare you get something like typhus or whatever. If it is, it's because you yourself have left it out. But in those days, cheese saved a lot of lives. It filled you up, and yeah, it's quite pleasant.
Well, it's very fattening, isn't it? Like milk.
Yeah.
It's a good meal. And you also get this cheese from the Bronze Age when they put it into the bog. And I think a few years back, a piece of this cheese was found and was tested. It's still edible.
Still edible. I wouldn't like to have been the guy trying it, but
no.
The point is it's preserved, and that's good.
Yeah. I know a folk tale about cheese.
Good for you.
I know a few folk tales about cheese.
I don't.
And we have 6 people watching and 3 thumbs up. It's very good, really.
Yeah.
Considering that we're not live streamed for a good while regularly. Yeah. So, Milkman says, witch trials, I mean. Of course so. And how would the Vikings and Saxons have seen witches?
They'd have kept a wide berth. It depends on your definition of witch. There are rune casters who, in the pre-Christian times, and to be fair, quite a way in, who were your doctors, philosophers, medicine, legal people. They took on a multifaceted role, which eventually the church took up. You know, that's fair enough. Time moves on. There were, how can I put it, nasty witches who caused problems, or warlocks or whatever. It's difficult to say, you know, I mean, history was written by the victors, and by this time the church was in ascendancy, and you don't portray non-Christians as particularly happy, good, useful people.
Would you class a witch and a seeress as the same thing?
That's a difficult one. I'll be honest, I didn't know. if you said witch, that's fair enough. And I have very good friends who you would class as witches, but I feel that they would contest that title vehemently. That somebody of a different faith.
We have a comment here, and this comes from Mystic Forge, and they say, what modern cheese would you say is most similar to Viking cheese?
Cottage cheese, I guess.
I'll probably say Wensleydale.
Oh, Wensleydale. Depends what you're doing with it.
I don't think it would be a cheddar, would it? That's just too plain of a cheese.
Well, I don't know. This is what I'll say.
Yeah, we need a cheese expert.
Cheeseologist. Fromaggio.
This is cheesing me off, this is.
No.
So Milkman says, any information on what they use for tattoos?
Yeah.
Design and what instruments?
Well, if we look at the Africans and the Maoris who do tattooing, the needle and ink would be probably bonfire ash and water.
You get a little mallet to tap it
And
in.
you tip, tip, tip. I would imagine it's extremely painful. I mean, the ones I've got make your hair turn up sometimes. I've got them all over. But, yeah, I mean, part of it is I'm marking your, well, I'm going back into African and people like that, is a stage of life. You've entered this and this is now where you're at. In Africa or hot countries, small cuts look a lot bigger than what they actually were. That's how they heal. So, yeah, you know, there's that sort of thing. Bragi's disappeared again. I don't know where he's gone. I think he's talking to his dad. But, yeah, tattoos and what they mean are they're very personal. I mean, mine are all about Norse. I've got them all over. Some people go for Celtic. And it's a very personal thing about tattoos. It's what people themselves want. Some people commemorate the death of someone or the marriage of someone, their parents or whatever, and they have symbolic meanings. Some people, to me, it's you're either into tattoos or you're not. And if you're not, that's fair enough. If you are, go for it. But be aware that once you've had them, they're staying with you.
I think my niece got her forehead tattooed recently.
That's not clever.
Well, each to their own.
Yeah.
The thing about a facial tattoo is that it's very difficult to get rid of it.
And very painful. I have a rule. No hand, no on the back of the hands, no face, neck. If I want to show my tattoos, I can show them. If not, I can cover them up.
Now, we are going to film a video of Egil getting a tattoo in the future.
Yeah. Woof, woof, baby.
It's a pity there's not more evidence to state that Vikings had them.
Well, we know they had them, but we don't know. We talk about the Swedes. They had them. They said they were tattooed head to foot, but we don't know what they were. Mine are taken off of illustrations that we have.
Well, we know the Ainos, they practice tattooing. So where did tattooing disappear to all those centuries? But it came back again.
They probably were going on, but
it is a controversial subject. Now we have a comment here. Soon we're going to end this because Egil's got to go home.
And I'm tired.
Yes. So True Tales says the sagas mention the dead rising, zombies, and people turning into wolves.
Yeah, well, I mean, allowing for poetic license, I'm sure there were times when people were in a coma and then something brought them out of it. There's also the tradition of the Walking Dead that goes way, way back. Werewolves may have been a folk memory. We talk about berserkers, you know, the guys in bearskins. There are also wolves, people who dressed up as wolves. Whether this was a hangover from that, I don't know. I know that Hollywood made a big thing of it, but who could say? Probably tapping away on his old keyboard. He's coming over here. I must say, a leather bikini does suit him.
Well, you couldn't lend it to me. If you give me those lines, I'll just give them back twice as hard.
Oof.
Baby. So Treve says, I have a bull tattoo inspired by the Book of Coals.
Good.
Yeah, excellent. I've got a book about that.
I was filming in Ireland, and if you go to Closmacnoise, they have a very, very good copy of the Book of Kells, and it's a beautiful thing to see.
That's my copy. Very good book, that. Designed by Sir Edward Sullivan.
Well, the one I saw was actually done on, it was a reproduction, handmade paper, leather, and all the other bits and pieces, which I urge you, if you get the chance, to go and see. I'd like to see the original, but I don't know where it is. I think it's British Museum.
I think it is in the British Museum.
Again, the British Museum. Woof, what a place. Sutton Hoo's stuff there and everything.
Well, I hope one day to get to film there with you one day.
Yeah.
Right, let's look at your questions. Hang on a minute.
I'm wilting, people.
So Miss Dick Ford says, thank you so much for sharing wisdom stories on here.
Yeah, well, it's a pleasure. I like to speak to people. It's what we're about. Remember, this is as much your channel as ours. We deliver what you like, and we'll stop doing what you don't like. It's a popularity thing. And
yeah,
I like it because I like to hear from you what you think and what you're feeling. And it's news from abroad, Doesn't matter whether you're in the next county or whether you're in half the world away. It's always great.
Well, it's wonderful to see how many countries we're getting into.
Well, it's also nice to think we have friends across the world. And if we're a more friendly and less warlike, the world would be a lot better place.
Yeah, I slightly read that wrong. He says, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom stories and time. Oh. And Milkman says, have a good night and many warm meals.
Cheers.
And Tree Tail says, we're going another 3 minutes up to the hour, then we're done then.
Okay.
So, just to bounce it out. It says, thanks for the live stream, gentlemen. Please send me the names of those 2 books you recommend. I will do. One on the Cornish Folktales and the Book of Kells. Yeah, I'll photograph them for you as well.
Is this chap in England? Or
that's in Australia, Treve, right. And he's invited us over. We'll put us up. All we've got to do is just drink mead and tell tales.
I had a friend at university, I think she's dead now, lived in Victoria.
Oh, yeah.
I was at Sutton Hoo with her, but she ended up getting...
We could go over with Rob. Hello, Rob Napier.
Well, Rob, I know, he's into koalas in a big way. And he thoroughly enjoyed his time there, It shows a caring side to him. He's otherwise occupied at the moment.
My brother spent 3 years in Australia, but he can't remember too much of it. He was having too much fun.
Yeah, I've never been. I mean...
Well, you're not going to get in for 2023 because they're locking it up, aren't they?
I have no idea.
Yeah, Australia's in lockdown until 2023.
It's too hot for me anyway.
It would be, even in the winter.
Well, I mean, my friend, she's dead now, as I say, was in Victoria. That's more like English weather.
But it's nice to know we've got Australian Vikings and Celts out there.
Well, it's a huge country. It's a continent on its own.
It is a big country.
And it has a very rich history. We've a lot to thank Australia for.
So what is the, to finish this live stream, what is the biggest man-made item on the world you can see from space?
I have no idea.
Most people think it's the Great Wall of China, don't they?
Yeah.
It's not. In Australia, there's a fence that goes from one side of Australia to another, and that is the longest man-made structure.
And that's to keep rabbits out, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I know they're plagued by rabbits because some clever person thought it'd be a good idea. I mean, they've also got cane toad problem as well.
Yeah.
The trouble, things thrive out there so quickly.
So Mystic Ford says, I'm in the USA.
Oh, right.
Greetings.
I had a friend in America, in Texas. Fortunately, she's dead now. But America is a place I'd love to visit. I've known several Americans. They amaze me.
Would you be willing to take part in a battle reenactment in America if I sort it out?
Well, I've got no passport.
Well, and even me, but one day we'll go.
Yeah.
And
I'd love to travel it and sort of like to go, Georgia, have a peach. in Hamburg somewhere. I just, yeah.
We could either hang about with the Iron Brigade, or we can go and hang out with the 5th Corps lads.
I just like to have a wander around America and see what it's all about.
So I'm not sure. I think this is a donation.
Oh.
So is this so Offerton? Hi, wishing you all a nice weekend. Knock 200. I'm not sure what that is. Whether that's a donation, I don't sure. We've never had a donation on the channel. Super chat is a very new thing to us, so we'll figure out what it is in a bit.
I just turn up, mate. As awful as I don't understand.
But we are going to go in a minute because everyone's got to go home, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yes. No, he's just sent us £17.37.
Thank you very, very much. So, that's most appreciated.
Excellent. That'll go towards equipment and running the channel.
Or even a bag of chips.
Bag of chips. We'll buy a bag of chips when you and Tyrkir.
Yeah.
But we are going to go now because everyone's got to go home, I'm afraid.
Can I just say a big thank you to all of you? I keep belching because that's
and a big thank you for that donation.
Yeah. Thank you
appreciate
very,
that.
very much. We do appreciate it. And as I say, it's been a bit of a long day. So never mind. All I say is please, please keep safe. I want you all to come home safe.
If we film on Monday, we'll do another live stream then. That's a promise.
Yeah.
Right, goodbye, folks.
Bye.
And thanks for that donation, Offerton.
Yeah.
Very appreciated.
That is actually very nice of them.
Going, gone.
Yeah, that was very nice of them.
Yes.